Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as we talk about Zidan update in relation to Manchester United. Also the Stuttgart manager, which apparently we approached in the summer. We'll talk about that, but also I think it's very, very clear that unless we see a twist beyond the biggest Hollywood films, we will see Erik ten Hag in charge of Manchester United against Brentford this coming Saturday. And it is very clear, therefore, that INEOS have reached their Ten Hag conclusion. Tonight, we'll discuss why they've reached that conclusion. And of course, being the United Stand community with you great people, you can put your comments in and we can discuss those on whether you agree with it or what alternative you think was out there. Because I think there's a few key principles here that I've heard. Did Man United miss the boat by not sacking Ten Hag after the FA Cup final? Is INEOS responsible for not doing it again in this international break? Is the money there to do it? Is there a manager there to do it? Should they just move towards Ruud van Nistelrooy? Or are there other reasons? For example, one thing I want to kick the show off with that maybe many of you haven't thought about is the accountability of the board that has been put together. I quite rightly hear a lot about how Erik ten Hag is responsible for making this team function, for being 14th in the league, etc., etc. But we also have just been through a summer transfer window where many hypocrites who are now saying these players are bad were 2 months ago talking about what a wondrous situation we were witnessing as Manchester United finally get capable, finally grow a pair, finally start mixing it with the big boys, bringing in players for the future. United mean business and they have a structure to compete with the biggest teams in the world. Not my words, the words of the written press, the TV press, and many United fans who have flip-flopped from that in 2 months. But I think there's a bit of granular detail there that actually lends a hand to Ten Hag and forces INEOS in a way to stick with their decision they made after the FA Cup final. If you go back to the FA Cup final, there was a big movement to keep Ten Hag and there was a movement to not keep Ten Hag. INEOS chose to do it. By doing that, they then surrounded Ten Hag with the likes of Barada, Ashworth, Wilcox. They will not be beyond culpability in the discussions that have gone over on the last week. And I don't understand why people don't think that. In this rush to sack Erik ten Hag, if you push that button, you also have to acknowledge that Ashworth, Barada and Wilcox have failed already. Not to the level that they need to be sacked, but they are culpable. They have been involved in big decisions for Manchester United over the summer transfer window. And they have to be looked at. Where is the left back? Why was the obsession there for the 2 Bayern Munich players? Agate, Xerxes, all these signings were signed off by Manchester United's dream team, best in class. So if you decide to sack Ten Hag last Tuesday or Monday or whenever it was meant to happen, you also have to look at, well, Dan Ashworth's been involved in this. All right, he's only been here a couple of months, but he signed a lot of this stuff off. If you abandon this plan, you also abandon the plan of the people that have been working on it, whether they've been here 5 minutes or 5 weeks. So I think that ultimately is probably a conclusion that INEOS looked at as well. After that FA Cup final, what did they do? They looked around the market, they made a decision, and they spent quite a lot of money backing that decision. It has failed from what they would have hoped. After that FA Cup final, beating Manchester City, don't know why I'm looking over there, Pep's not there. After that FA Cup final, we beat Manchester City in a way where everybody was shocked and everybody said we deserve to win. Have we kicked on from that? INEOS have gone, how do we kick on from that? Eric, Dan, Omar, Jason, how do we kick on from winning that FA Cup final? If we take the hype of that FA Cup final, the positivity of that FA Cup final and say to you people, how do we build on that for next season so we're not having a season like last season? They've given them the platform. They've given them the plan and now we're in 14th place. So I think there is shared responsibility here that also INEOS will be looking at and going, if we abandon it now, we're also abandoning a lot of these new people that we've brought in who were part of this project over the summer as well. Erik ten Hag should play Mazraoui on left back because of Rashford's Allen. Yeah, Mazraoui's injured, mate. Sorry, we're trying to have a grown-up conversation. Stick with Ten Hag, simple and clear, says Rub. And Lee says, I can't believe who we've retained and who we've let go. Watching Gomez play tonight stung. It's international football, mate. I mean, look, I'm going to be I think we need it. I'm going to be blunt in relation to my responses, and you can be blunt back as long as it's like, you know, constructive. But Angel Gomez playing well for England. I don't give a shit. It's Finland, mate. Bruno played well last night. I'm not bothered. I don't care. Like, we've made plenty of mistakes in the past, and we'll make plenty of mistakes in the future. We're not 14th in the league because we let Angel Gomez go. Let's put it that way. We have a left back with when Malacia comes back. Yeah, you've just took over the worst comment ever. It's CJR. Come on, it's the United Stand community. You're 10 years old. Grow up and start giving me something decent. Bloody hell. What a terrible start to the show. Mazraoui should play at left back when he's injured, and Malacia's our answer at left back. I mean, what a shit start. Right, okay, I'll carry on then. I've got lots to say. So, INEOS reached their Ten Hag conclusion. Let's have a look at it. So, what we have realistically is a situation where many of you would sack Erik Ten Hag, and I know why, and I can't disagree with many of the reasons you've got. But why did INEOS reach the conclusion to stick with him? Well, it's very, very obvious on many levels. And I don't necessarily think money is the way. I mean, one option was it was going to cost them 15, 17 million to sack him, but you put Ruud van Nistelrooy in as a interim. I don't think they like that option. Well, yeah, obviously the money payout is not great, but you're also killing Ruud van Nistelrooy and Rennie Heck as well, which will cost you money in the long term. Because all Ruud and Rennie will do, I mean, if you keep them after Ten Hag's gone, all they will do is steady the ship to the summer, and then they go as well. So anybody who's going, let's sack Ten Hag and give Ruud the job, I would like to sit them down. Maybe there's some of you in the chat tonight and go, what's your long-term vision? Because one of the great things about this community, especially in an international break, is we can have these types of conversation and throw it back at me as well, because I'll give you an in-depth answer, as I always do, and I normally get one from you as well. But if you sack Ten Hag for Ruud, you are only writing the season off and hoping for a bit of an Ollie glow-up before you get a proper manager in the summer. That's what you're doing with Ruud. If you think that's a better option, that's fine. But don't tell me you want to sack Ten Hag to give Ruud the job because he's going to be the next Sir Alex Ferguson that's going to rebuild this football club from top to bottom and take us back to compete with Man City. Because where's the evidence of that? There's absolutely none. That's not what I want. I don't think that's what you want. This is, let's sack Ten Hag to put Ruud in because it's something different and I'm justified in sacking Ten Hag and I can tell everyone I told you so. Which I understand in a sense, but is also short-sighted and naive. We need to look at solutions. We need to follow what INEOS have actually tried to do. There's a story that's come in tonight from Christian Falk, who said during the summer, prior to extending Ten Hag's contract, Manchester United contacted Stuttgart's Sebastian Hoeneß, discussed potential availability and possible transfers, but Hoeneß declined. I've probably got his name wrong because I'm a big fan of Blockbusters. Bob Hoeneß. Is he still alive? Can I have a B, please, Bob? Can I have an A, please? Is he still alive? But look, Manchester United clearly, whether Christian Falk is talking out of his arse or talking out of his mouth, the fact is, it doesn't matter whether it's Sebastian Hoeneß or it's Julian Nagelsmann or it's Thomas Frank. We know we spoke to managers in the summer. We know this. And what I don't understand is that when people say, let's sack Ten Hag and let's just sack Ten Hag, it's not good enough. Fine. What are we doing afterwards? We've been talking about this for 12 months. What are we doing next? We've just spoken about the Ruud van Nistelrooy thing. I can't tell you what INEOS thinks. Nobody can tell you what INEOS thinks. But I think INEOS are looking at Ruud van Nistelrooy and going, we've seen this before. If we give him the job and he does well, the crowd will sing, they'll pressure us into giving him a contract, and we will waste 3 years. If it doesn't go that well, the season is a write-off, and in the summer, we've got to rebuild again. We're better off clinging on to dear life and hoping that Ten Hag turns this around than giving the job to Ruud at the moment, because Ruud is a write-off. There is no future in Ruud van Nistelrooy unless a miracle happens. So we're better off waiting for a miracle from Ten Hag because it's cheaper. And if we've got to replace in the summer anyway, that's what's going to happen with Ruud. So I think that's why that's what they're looking at there. But taking you back to what we were just talking about the Stuttgart manager or Zidan. Let's talk about Zidan. Zinedine Zidan is available. Zinedine Zidan was available when we wanted to replace Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Zinedine Zidan is apparently waiting for the France job. Didier Deschamps is not going to give that up before the World Cup. So Zidan is available for the next 18 months, like he's been available for the last 3 years. Those deals are difficult to do. Blanc has a great relationship with Zidan. Man United have probably tried to get Zidan. They may well try again. But what's your point, Mark? My point is, in this summer, Manchester United looked at other options and they couldn't find a better one. So when I hear people saying, well, Manchester United missed the boat by not sacking Ten Hag in the summer, sorry, mate, you're not a director of football, you're not a CEO, and you know nothing. You're Jon Snow, pal, because you don't know who we spoke to and you don't know what was available. And actually, I think they probably made the right decision, because I think when you look at Nagelsmann or Zidan or Amorim, they weren't available in May. They just weren't available. You basically had Potter, De Zerbi, and I'm sorry, if you want to talk about De Zerbi, we can spend 10 seconds on it, because ultimately he's managing a very strong team in a very weak league. I'm not interested in De Zerbi. I'm really not. I know he's doing well at Marseille, and some people think he's great, but for me, I stand by what I said in the summer. Tuchel, obviously, we know about. So I think what we're talking about here is how have INEOS reached this Ten Hag conclusion? And I think the conclusion has been met because, yes, Ten Hag's on thin ice. Scooby-Doo, well done. We all know that. He's on very, very thin ice. Brentford lose. He probably fell through the ice. But where that doesn't help us is, if there was a viable option that was better than Ten Hag, that would be part of the vision that they think that can rebuild Man United, i.e. the dream ticket, whether it's Zidan, Nagelsmann or whoever, I think United would have done it by now. I think they would have done it in May. And I think they would have done it in the international break. I think what's staring us obviously in the face is that there is not a viable option that jumps out at INEOS where they don't feel that's a big risk. And that's why they've not done it. And yet people want to complain about that because they think, well, Tuchel would do a good job or Potter would do a good job. Well, some people think they wouldn't. I certainly don't think 100% of our fan base are going, let's give the job to Thomas Tuchel or let's give the job to Graham Potter. I think there's a selection of our fans who are going, I like the idea of that. It's better than Ten Hag. Respect. But also, big risk. Big risk. And if that's what INEOS are thinking, I think that's why they've met the conclusion they have. I think in May, it's unfair to look back to May and say they missed the boat, because I think the decision they made in May is the very same decision they've made now for the very same reasons. I don't think they're looking at this market and going, well, there's someone to, bake your bread on. There's the one to bet the house on. And that is the problem. And I think what we're probably going to see, as I've said throughout the week, really, is this best-in-class approach where, you'd have to be bloody stupid to think that Ten Hag is the solution at the moment. You can hope for it. You can back him. You can hope for that miracle, like I say. But what you absolutely have to do is be working and thinking about alternatives. But that happens anyway. I've said this about Brighton before. Brighton will be looking at their manager who's doing really, really well and knowing if he does really, really well, we need a replacement because someone's going to take him. Also, if he does really badly, we're going to have to sack him, so we need a replacement. So Brighton will already be looking at managers that fit the Brighton model. There's nothing wrong with Man United looking at models, depends what model it is. But there's nothing wrong with Manchester United looking at solutions, and I think they have to do that. But the solutions that probably I would want, and maybe some of you would want, aren't as simple as, let's sack Ten Hag in the international break because he's available. I think if you want a Zidan, it's virtually impossible, but you've got to spend time. You've got to spend time working on that. If you want a Nagelsmann, it's virtually impossible, but you've got to spend time trying to do it. If you want an Amorim, well, he didn't go to Liverpool last summer, but he's only got 1 year left on his contract next summer. That becomes a problem for Sporting as to whether they want to do a deal or let him walk away in a year's time. So things can become more possible with a longer term view. Shane, I've got a good question here. Shane says, Mark, what do you accept and also think INEOS will accept as a realistic point tally until the next international break? Well, I'd throw a question to you, Sean. Do you think this season is a write-off? Do you think this season is rescuable in any way, shape or form? I don't think and I'm happy to have this conversation because, again, I'm sure it might be a minority view. I think this season is more rescuable at this moment in time, sticking with Ten Hag, than it is with going with Ruud van Nistelrooy. People talk about, well, if we give it to Tuchel or Potter or whoever, it's more rescuable. I don't know whether it is. I'm not Tuchel's biggest fan, but if you give him this squad, why would it work? Why would it work? I mean, if I was Sir Jim Radcliffe and somebody was saying to me, I think we should sack Ten Hag and give the job to Thomas Tuchel, I would be saying, hold on a minute. We spoke to Tuchel in May and we decided not to do the deal. Since then, we've probably bought 2 or 3 players that he doesn't even like. Certainly De Ligt. So why is this going to work now when we decided it wasn't going to work in May and now in October we're saying he's the guy? I mean, I don't want to blow smoke up my own arse here, but I'm a multi-billionaire from nothing, and we didn't want to do this deal in May. No matter what the reason was, the deal didn't happen. We're now in October, and in between that time, we've spent money on players that logically he won't want. Why is that a good decision right now? And I think that's a logical thing to say. But look, I think if you give the job to Ruud van Nistelrooy, you can write off Liverpool at Anfield, you can write off the Etihad, you can write off the Emirates. I don't see a glow up with Ruud van Nistelrooy. I really, really don't. I'm not saying I see one with Ten Hag. That's why I'm saying, do you think that this season is pretty much a write-off already? I know a lot of people do. That's why I'm asking you. Do you think that this season is basically done for United already? I don't think it is. I think we've proven that we can win trophies with this manager. At the league top 4, I'd probably say is gone, no matter what we do. But, you know, that's just my personal view. I want to get into your comments. Simple reason is INEOS, especially Ashworth, are looking at long-term solutions than stopgaps. INEOS don't want a new toy, says Akil. Mark, aren't you tired? Weird lineups, subs and tactics over and over again, says Jake. I tell you what I'm tired of, Jake. I'm tired of injuries. I mean, we'll talk about it later in the week, but, you know, I mean, I don't think Garnacho's fit for next Saturday. Obviously, we already know that Mazraoui's not fit for next Saturday. Mainu might not be fit for next Saturday. Maguire's not fit for next Saturday. So we're already on a sticky wicket against a team that scored in the first 2 minutes of their last 4 Premier League games. And I've seen them at the Etihad and at Anfield play well this season. It's going to be tough. It is. It's going to be really, really tough. Let me just talk about a couple of other things as well. Give us your thoughts. You are great. Give us your thoughts. I want to know your thoughts tonight because you know what I'm tired of? I'm tired of the ridiculous. I'm tired of the shallow. I'm tired of the sack Ten Hag, but nobody will give us an alternative. And when somebody does give us an alternative, and I go, I think this is a mistake because of this, this, and this, they don't want to talk about it. I'm also tired of I nearly said the insane, the laughable. I mean, I got sent a clip today. We may well use it on the podcast tomorrow. Pratt of the week, Paul Merson, who basically, hand on heart, I had to listen to Paul Merson, which I haven't done for a long time because I didn't trust what somebody said. Somebody said to me that Paul Merson has said that Manchester United should put Gary Neville in charge of transfers. So I had to see the clip, and it was from 3 days ago. And he said, if it were me, I'd put Gary Neville or Rio Ferdinand in charge of transfers for Manchester United. And that is on Sky Sports TV. That's, if you don't live in the UK, that is our A-star football news show channel. That goes out to millions. Although actually, probably over the last 2 years, it probably goes out to the thousands because it's fell off a bloody cliff. But wow, you know, that's just incredible, isn't it? That's the sort of extremity of opinion you can get, which is why I want your opinion, because you're educated, you're great, you know what you want. We might not agree, but give me some good thoughts. Give me some good solutions. Is the season a write-off? What would you do if you would disagree with what I've said about why INEOS have probably done this? And I think the headlines as to why INEOS haven't done this, and look, I can't sit here and say this is exactly why they've done it, as much as I can't sit here and say there's no chance that they'll sack Ten Hag tomorrow, Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday. I don't think they will. It would be a major shock, but let's be honest, we don't know what the plan is. But it looks like the plan is stability. It looks like the plan is stick the course. It looks like we said we were going to go this way and we're going to go this way and we're going to stick with it longer than a short-term thing. We're not going to be the owners that sack a manager earlier than anybody ever has. We've never sacked a manager before November. Maybe that plays on their mind, but I don't think it does. I think, honestly, the key 2 points for me, and let me know if you disagree, it's not me making this point, I'm observing it. Like in my jobs, sometimes you turn up in an incident and you had to figure out why you thought that happened. You didn't do it. You're just trying to figure it out. I look at what's gone on over the last week, and the two things that jump out at me are, one, I think people are missing this. I've never heard anybody mention this. As I said at the start of the show, I think Dan Ashworth, Barada and Wilcox have massive responsibility for what we've done this summer. Massive responsibility about how we're playing. We've already been told that Wilcox and everybody else are going to be speaking to Ten Hag about how we play and implementing that collectively. We definitely know the signings and the sales they've been massively involved in. And I think INEOS will probably look at this and go, we can sack Ten Hag, but by sacking Ten Hag, we're also abandoning what our new team around football have been part of over the last 2 months. So I think that plays on their minds. Also, I think probably more, the second thing is, in May, they looked at the availability of managers and decided there wasn't one there. And I think they're looking again and going, well, it's the same people again. They're not there. And I think that, as hard as it is to swallow, are the reasons. It's not going to make you feel happier if you're Ten Hag out. I've seen people going, I'm Ten Hag out. I don't care what anybody says. But I would like to sit them down and say, right, tell me what you don't understand about those two things as to why they haven't done it. Because all you're going to do is say, well, I think we should get Tuchel. That's great. Make yourself a self-made billionaire. Buy 28% of Man United with control for the footballing side. Put your own team in charge. Sack Ten Hag and put Tuchel in charge. But until then, your opinion, you're entitled to. I'm telling you, I might be wrong, but that's why I think the owners of Man United have reached the conclusion they have at the moment. It might be a different conclusion in a week. What is acceptable? Another cup not capable of fourth, says Shane Day. 442 says Kyle. Hi Mark, with this story around Ten Hag, the lineup performance, I was wondering what is the exact limit of Wilcox's power as a technical director, says Abdi. I just want to say as well, this is not a Ten Hag in-out show. I assumed, because I've done shows with you for so long, that your IQ is at a certain level. That's why you watch the channel. You're intelligent people. This is not a Ten Hag in-out show. This is trying to understand the owners of our football club and why they've made the decision they have. This is not Ten Hag in or out. I mean, you've got more than every right to say whether you are or you aren't, but we're talking about why INEOS have reached this conclusion. We're trying to understand it, which I think we are. Why is top four over? We're only 6 points off, says Alan. I think we're 5 points off relegation, Alan. So, look, it's not over. It's not over. We've got a pivotal next 4 weeks. I don't want to repeat what I said last night, but we have got Brentford at home, we've got Leicester at home, we've got West Ham away, and we have got Chelsea at home. That's 12 points. I would love to say we'll get 10. I don't think we will, but we can get back up amongst it. We need to see a massive change, and we have got an injury crisis again, I'm afraid. That is not an excuse. That is not an excuse, but it's a problem. It is a problem that we didn't have a left back from the start of the season. We've only got one fit full back. Most of our centre backs are now injured. Yeah, it is a problem. Ryan, welcome to Members Club. You're a legend. I think we're on course for 5th to 8th, but there's little difference between them positions in the league. Hopefully we can get a trophy though, says Luke. Rude got sent away by Xabi Simons, Veerman and Luke Dion. Tactics. I'm back to your channel because some others are toxic. Eric Ten Hag will turn it around, says Tidge Media. I'd love to know what you mean about Rude got sent away by Simmons, Veerman and Luke de Jong. Tactics. Look, I don't profess to know a lot about Ruud van Nistelrooy's stint at PSV. And I don't really think it massively matters in the now. Some people say he did a really good job. Some people said PSV got more points the season before and the season after he left. So, look, there's talk about him being tactically naive. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer failed at Cardiff and got the Man United job and did well. So the rules are there to be rewritten. But what I will always tell you is I remember saying this with Solskjaer. The insanity of definition. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Tell me an interim coach in the Premier League that has been made interim and gone on to be successful. You will probably tell me, Solskjaer. Is that success for Manchester United to not win a trophy and finish second once? No, it is not. An interim very, 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 very rarely works. Very rarely works. So I don't see Ruud van Nistelrooy working at all. I think it would be a stopgap, in my opinion. And I also think, as I said to you a week ago, the problem that Ruud van Nistelrooy will have, I'll back him. I will back him 100%. If he ends up being the next manager, I will back him. There's no reason not to. But the problem he will have, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer won his first 6 Premier League games. We were singing a song outside Old Trafford. Signed the contract. We did it. We wasted 3 years. For me, Ruud van Nistelrooy will not be able to top what Ole did and will always be thinking, we've done this before. It's a problem. The season was a write-off when I got sold to Scott McTominay. Mark, we are currently on the same trajectory as last season, if not worse. When does it become not worth sacking Ten Hag till the end of the season? Jim, tell me what you're doing. I ain't got a problem with what you've just said there, Jim. Thank you very much for the super chat, but what are you doing? Where are you going? We're getting stuck in the same sort of comments that we had a year ago. You are walking to the gate, you are opening the door, but you won't enter. What are we doing afterwards, Jim? I ain't got a problem with you sacking him. I want to know what you're doing next. Tell me what you're doing next and why it will work. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. Simple reason is INEOS, especially Ashwood, looking at the long term. We've done that from Akil. Mark, aren't you? I've done that one from there as well. What do you accept and also think INEOS will accept as a realistic point tally? I think point tallies are great at the start of the season, and I think I've said I'd like to see us get over 70, but when I look at it at the moment, I think it's very, very difficult. We've had such a, sluggish start to the season, and it's hard to gauge the rest of the Premier League as well, because I think it's so competitive beyond the title race. If you look at Aston Villa and you look at Spurs and you look at Chelsea and you look at Newcastle, there's another team I always forget, probably is. The West Hams, the Brightons. It's so competitive. It's very hard to say that 70 points will get you 4th place like you used to. It could be 65. So I think at the moment, I would like to see Man United hit 70 points. It's been a while. But, it might not be achievable. I mean, we might see a lot of Premier League teams losing 6 to 10 games and still have a good season. Louis van Gaal and Mourinho couldn't tame this toxic, ego-driven dressing room culture. Folks thinking Zidan would put up with it and stick around are crazy, says Oz. Mate, I'm happy to have that Zidan chat anytime. Anytime, because I've said it to you before. The fits ain't right. This ain't Cinderella slipping on the glass slipper. This is... This ain't that. This is, it's not a fit for Zidane as far as I'm concerned. To be honest, Jon Snow knew one thing at least, says Rub. Give me the job and I'll fix it, says Gareth Southgate. It's interesting what Oz says, though, because I was reading some of the comments from the show this morning. I actually wrote it down. Listen to this and tell me what you think. We're just going to deviate for a moment. There's lots to get into, don't worry. We were talking a bit about Bruno and how apparently he played well for Portugal last night. There was a lot of people in the comments saying, well, I'm Portuguese, or I watched the game, he didn't play well. The fullbacks were better than him. He played okay. But one of the comments was, Ten Hag did this to Bruno. It's just like, again, it's almost like the Paul Merson, let's put Gary Neville in charge of transfers. You're entitled to the opinion, but we're entitled to laugh. I mean, Ten Hag did this to Bruno. Sorry. Bruno was hitting Hollywood balls and hero balls under Ollie. The difference is it worked because we used to camp and park the bus and counter-attack and people hated it. Moments FC. People didn't like the way we played. It was just successful. It worked. It got us 2nd place. It worked very well in COVID until we got figured out. And then, you know what happened with Solskjaer? It did really well for 2 years. And then in his final year, people figured us out. All they do really is play quite compact and then counter. And people realised what we were doing and we couldn't score anymore. But Bruno was very good in that system. But we don't play that brand of football anymore. So he doesn't work as well as he used to anymore. So Ten Hag did this to Bruno. Well, in a way, what I found funny about it was I think the person was trying to say Ten Hag's made Bruno play crap. inadvertently, you make a bad point a good point. The way we're trying to play, which is the way Villa play, or Spurs play, or everybody plays, is the way we're trying to play. And you're right, Ten Hag did do this to Bruno because he said, I don't want to play counter-attacking football anymore. Because none of us do. And that is the problem. These players have to evolve. If you want to play counter-attacking football, go and play for Everton. But they don't. They want to play for Man United. They want to earn 300k a week. If you want to earn 300k a week, you can't just be a counter-attacking moments player. And that actually feeds into a lot of our players. They want to play for Man United. They want to play for their country, but they don't want to adapt. They want to play a style of football that suits them. But you're a professional footballer who is meant to be playing at the top level. That means you've got to be adaptable to tactics. So it's not Ten Hag's fault. It's not Ollie's fault. It's not Rangnick's fault. It's the player's fault. You get paid money to play for this football club. You need to adapt. Simple. Anyway, I just wanted to deviate from that. Maybe we need to accept that Bruno doesn't suit Ten Hag's system, says Akil. It shouldn't be the other way around. I can say Pep made Grealish works. Make it make sense, says Akil. To throw a spanner in the works, says Hayden. Would you accept Roy Keane as manager if he's available? No, not as a manager. Hayden, I genuinely don't think Roy Keane's capable of managing a top 10 Premier League club. I don't. I'd love to be wrong on that because I think it would be box office, but I don't think he's good enough for that. I think he might be a decent assistant coach, but I don't think he's a manager of that level. All signs point to Southgate, says Keel. I'm very happy to see the club maintaining their stance on Eric, even during these difficult times, says Savage. Musk Mellon says, fancy question, one United player in the Premier League 11 right now. What? If I have to force one in? Because there isn't one. Our best player at the moment, get in the chat. Who is our player of the season so far? Mazraoui, probably the most consistent player. I mean, I'd like to say Garnacho or Ahmad or Mainu, but most consistent player, I think it has to be Mazraoui, doesn't it? I think he has been our most consistent player. A few people saying Onana. Which, you know, I'm never going to say because I think he's quite a limited goalkeeper. He has made some good saves, but I think he's quite a limited goalkeeper. Lee Galdet says, yes, season is a write-off. What have INEOS actually done to show they're competent? All I see is similar injury problems and rewarding mediocrity. Look, I back INEOS. I've seen the light. I back INEOS. I've had a personality trait. No, at the moment I do back INEOS because I think if we don't, we're lost. If INEOS are a fake, if INEOS are a fraud, we are finished. We are absolutely done. Because they become a barrier for the Glazers. They become in bed with the Glazers, and that can't happen. So I choose to still believe in INEOS because if we don't, we are done. We're finished. Not just the season, we're finished as a football club. So I still hope that there is hope. I think in relation to the injuries, I'm as frustrated as you, Lee. I am really frustrated about it. But I never felt that was going to get solved in one summer. Some of these players are just purely injury prone. It doesn't matter if INEOS buy the best equipment and recruit the best fitness people. You're not going to keep Mason Mount fit if he's got a problem. And the same with Luke Shaw. So some of the players are going to be injured until we get rid of them. There will be, as part of the review, there will be players where they've gone, it doesn't matter what we do, they will still get injured. So that is going to take time. And also, there is a lot of things that need to be implemented to stop other people getting injured. So I think it's going to take time with the injuries. As for what they've done with Ten Hag, as I said, I back them on that because I'm not Ten Hag out, obviously. But that's not what we're really talking about. We're talking about why INEOS has done it so far. I think INEOS have done it so far because actually they're trying to be different. They're trying to walk down a path that's a bit different. They're trying to back the decisions of the summer that Barada made, that Wilcox made, that Ashworth made, that Favell made, that Brailsford made, and Ten Hag. They're trying to back that vision of the summer as long as they can. That's what they're trying to do. And also, whilst backing that, they're also looking and going, if we did sack him, the list is no different to what it was in May, and we didn't fancy them in May. So I think that's where we are. So I don't actually have a massive problem with what they've done. What I have a massive problem with is where we are. It's not acceptable where we are at the moment. I think we're all in tune on that. But I do understand the conclusion they've made at the moment because sometimes the solution is not there. And I think that, You know, I said this to you a few weeks ago, or maybe a few days ago. I think it is human nature when you're in a crisis to think that there is a solution out of the crisis. Sometimes in life there isn't. I don't want to be morbid, but sometimes you take your dog to the vets and they're not well, and the vet says the kindest thing to do is to end this, or take them home, they've got a few weeks left. Sometimes there's not a solution. And sometimes the solution is give him the medicine. It's going to be a long road. It might work, it might not work, but there's no quick fix. I think everybody thinks there's a quick fix in football because it's almost like it matters more than anything else, but it's only football. Let's just change it and try again. And I think that what we've got here is a situation where we may well end up breaking that thin ice. Of course we might. It's not acceptable where we are at the moment, but I think at the moment what INEOS are doing is they're going, we're not there yet. We're still going to stick with our project. And also, there's nothing out there at the moment. I think if Julian Nagelsmann was available or Zidan was interested, I think we might be in a different situation, but I think that's a big factor as well. What is acceptable? Another cup. We've done that from Shane. Thank you very much. Did Sir David Brailsford identify real leaders in the team, says Terence? I don't know. I can't answer that, David. At the moment, I've said this many times. I think that when it comes to leaders in that team at the moment, I don't think we have an abundance of them. I don't think they're necessarily easy to go and find anyway. And yeah, look, I wish there was a magic wand to put 3 or 4 leaders in that team, but unfortunately there isn't. I think some of the criticism that Bruno Fernandes gets is ridiculously unfair, because I think he's doing his best in a position that, look, Bruno Fernandes ain't nowhere near Nemanja Vidic. He's nowhere near Gary Neville as a captain. Like, he's certainly nowhere near a Roy Keane or a Brian Robson. So, but who's better than him? This needs to take a bit of time. Gray says the channel is PR, and yet we're talking about INEOS, mate. So I'm on the INEOS payroll now, am I? Okay. Maybe it's just somebody with a different opinion to you, and you're immature and you can't deal with it. I can listen to you, mate. Tell me your alternative and we'll discuss it, because I can listen to other people. I understand that you can't have an opinion without accepting other people will have a different opinion to you. That's the whole point. You project an opinion in the public, your workplace, down the bar, on the train, and someone comes back at you with an opinion, you shouldn't have projected yours in the first place. But what people like you do is, you don't like it, so you have to throw names at it to try and distinguish it. But it won't work. Because I'm not actually talking about the thing you're talking about. I'm talking about why our owners of this football club have made this conclusion. We're not actually talking about whether Gray is Ten Hag out. We're actually talking about why he's still in charge and why INEOS have probably made this decision. Because, as I said, overarchingly, nobody actually knows. What if tomorrow we wake up at 10 o'clock and we wanted him to get back from holiday, we've sacked him? I ain't going to sit here and say that's not going to happen. What I will tell you is, I don't believe all the bullshit out there who tell you what is happening. Like, we're going to sack him last Tuesday. Like, we're going to keep him till Christmas. I don't believe any of those things. But what you can do is assess the situation and go, I think they're trying to walk a path less travelled. I think they're trying to back not just Ten Hag, but their structure around Ashworth and Barada, etc., who have made big calls in the summer that at the moment aren't paying off. So it's not just backing Ten Hag, it's about backing them as well. And also, I firmly believe the market is not good enough for them to push that button. And I also believe if they sack Ten Hag, the only place they're going to go is Ruud van Nistelrooy, and I think they've got concerns about that. Distressed Wrangler Jeans, we all need a pair of those, says, what is realistic timeline to win the Premier League with Ten Hag? Well, it's not realistic. But you're Ten Hag in. I haven't said I'm Ten Hag in. I'm just not Ten Hag out. I don't see the point in sacking the manager at the moment. Do I see a Premier League title with Eric Ten Hag? No, of course I don't. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because that's the level. That's the standard. But this conversation about Man United and a Premier League title, at what point does it become a complete and utter negative point. At what point does when are we going to win a Premier League title become laughable? We've never been near one. We've never been near one since the day Sir Alex Ferguson walked off with one. Never even close. The second place finishers were a joke. We were like 20 points off or something like that. People keep talking about when we're going to win the Premier League. Get in the top four and stay there for one. Then get in a title race. Like, we're so far away. I don't know why it's even a conversation. It should be what we do. We're Manchester United. You know, we're the Juventus of England. We're the Barcelona of England. We're the Bayern Munich of England. 100% we are, but we're nowhere near a title. And I think that this is, look, it may be a problem for some, but I don't actually hear this. I don't see it very often. I don't think that there are many United fans out there obsessing about when the next Premier League title is going to come from, because I think the last 10 years have taught us that you can dominate for 20 years and then you can fall off a bloody cliff for 10. And when you fall off a cliff, guess what happens? You might break your neck. You might damage your back. You might break your legs. You might have to learn to walk again. And I think we fell off a cliff. We were at the top of the mountain and we fell off a cliff. Some people fall off the top of the mountain and they grab on. They grab on and they don't fall that far and they build them way back. We fell right to the bottom and we've hit every bloody rock on the way down. We've suffered every possible injury. We're right at the bottom of the mountain. And for me, it's just about getting up and climbing again and not slipping down, because I feel at times we've started to climb the mountain and we haven't healed. That broken leg is not healed. It's given way and you roll back down the mountain. I think if you could have a little meme of what Man United are over the last 10 years, Sir Alex is there, he retires, you wind all the way down the mountain, and then it's about going up the mountain a little bit, we fall back down, up, down, up, down. We've got to build a sustainable model to climb the mountain. And maybe somebody should make that little animation and play it to the players so that they understand that most football fans of this football club understand there is a journey. Because I think some of them play with the expectation that they've got to win the league. You haven't got to win the league. Just get top four and then stay in the top four. But go to work every day looking up, knowing you've got a lot of work to do. When you're at the top of the mountain, chill out, enjoy the view. But you've got to go every day and work hard. And we are at the bottom of the mountain. So titles for me are somewhat irrelevant, really. Should have got Amrabat and Rabiot. Spilt milk, says Keel. INEOS seem like a bunch of data analysts. However, you can't measure culture, spirit on mentality on an Excel spreadsheet, says Fairway 5. I mean, look, you know, it's got nothing really to do with the show tonight, but I've seen increasingly more people saying, you know, starting to criticise Dan Ashworth. Only got the job in July. Yes, he will have his fingerprints all over at least 4 of our signings, certainly. And yes, he'll have his fingerprints on not getting a left back. But I think it's too soon. I think it's way, way too soon. Now, I've always said, though, just before we move on, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that in the next year, Wilcox gets sacked or Ashworth gets sacked or Barada gets sacked. You can't throw all these people in, say they're best in class and they've never worked together and suddenly they become the dream team. Like, there may have to be rotations in there. We'll be very lucky if they all work together really, really well, but it's too soon, in my opinion. The next manager has to be a proven manager, says Ryan. So when we come across future challenges, the manager is the last place we look to find said problem. Good point, Ryan. Caleb says, I think we should hold off sacking Ten Hag, but I think a change would at least bring some momentum. If the choice is to stick, we need strong leadership, says Caleb. Jonah says, I asked yesterday, honest opinion on every player. God, right, I'm going to whiz through this then very, very quickly, and I won't do every player, but you did ask yesterday, and I did say I'd cover it. So, Onana, in my opinion, decent goalkeeper, not a great shot stopper. His biggest asset is playing out from the back, and we don't do it. I don't think he is anywhere near, or ever will be, top 5 shot stopper in the Premier League, and I think you need that. I like Mazraoui. I like Dalot. I like Martinez. I like De Ligt. Johnny Evans, I like, but there's no future in it. Harry Maguire, same. Lindelof, He needs to go, but could be very useful for us at the moment with the injuries we've got. Luke Shaw is a liability. Really like him, but you can't just keep saying what a great player he is when he's fit. He's never fit and he's not reliable. Malacia, don't really know who you are. Not seen you play for 18 months and don't remember him being setting the world on fire before then, so he's a bit of a mystery. Into the midfield, Kobe Mainu, definitely like him. Agate, I like him this time. Ericsson, same as Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire. Who else have we got in the midfield? Mason Mount. I want to like Mason Mount, but I'm very worried. I don't think he's reliable. Bruno Fernandes. I like Bruno Fernandes. He's got to change himself as a player. That is on him. He's got to stop playing the way he's played for the last 3 years, and he's got to mature. He's 30. He's a leader. He's a captain. He's on big money. Apparently, he can play possession football. Bloody do it. I think he can do it, and I think the criticism is valid. Who else? Ahmad, I like. Garnacho, I like. Marcus Rashford, very similar to Bruno Fernandes. I think he can do it. I think he needs to simplify his game. I think he's looked a little bit better this season. But he should be delivering like Bruno week in, week out. Who else? Xerxes, I like. Rasmus, I like. Anyone else I've missed out? So there's a lot of players I like in that team. There's a lot of potential in that team. But potential is not consistency, and that's what we need. If we're not, asked yesterday, I've done that one from Jonah anyway. Thank you very much for reminding me. Ron says, if we're not comfortably in the top 4 discussion by 2026, I'm sure Nagelsmann will get the job, regardless of whether Ten Hag or Amarin is in charge, says Ron. Okay. What's realistic? Who would suit our current play style as the 10, says Hayden. Look, there'll be plenty of people out there that can... Oh, Casemiro. I didn't mention Casemiro. I mean, Casemiro, for me, is the same as Johnny Evans or Harry Maguire or Christian Eriksen. There's no future in it. Anthony, I don't see a way back. I don't see a way back. I really don't. Yeah. Did Brailsford identify real leaders in the team? Sorry, Hayden asked. I've read that from Terrace. In relation to the number 10, I would just. I've said this before. There'll be plenty of people out there who can tell me number 10s that could work at Manchester United, and there's plenty of good names out there. But for me, I wouldn't mind just trying James Maddison or Odegaard there. You know, I mean, just try Odegaard there, one of the best in Europe. But possession-based number 10, I'd like to try Christian Eriksen there. I'd like to try Christian Eriksen there for 4 weeks. I'd like to try Mason Mount there for 4 weeks. Because I'd be stunned if Christian Eriksen played at number 10 and suddenly started whacking 40, 50-yard balls over the top of the defence. I just don't think it's in him to do it. But the stupid thing is, people say, well, you know, let's buy this number 10, let's buy that number 10. We actually have somebody who I always saw as a number 10 that we could just try there, but we won't do it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There is no next manager. This is it. This is it, says Kyle. Sounds like a song. Shubnam, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much. Time to give Amas a chance, says Edwin. Left and Delo at right back. We don't know the true potential of this setup, and it might be successful. And sure, we'll have to fight for his place. Drop Bruno. Edwin, if Harry Amas is ready, I'm absolutely behind you on that statement. If he's not ready, we shouldn't do it. You can't throw a kid in if they're not ready. But where I agree with you is if he is ready, I would rather have a left back who is young and ready over a right back playing at left back, because the balance of specialism is essential. Absolutely essential. What player do we need? Will we get any in January, says David. I think this is a great point. And it might shock a few people, but I don't think we need to buy anybody. I actually agree the focus should be on the coaching. I don't think we've had enough time to know whether the players we bought in the summer are duds. And I don't think we've had enough time to, you know, start saying, well, no, we have had enough time. We haven't had enough time to judge the summer signings, and we kept a lot of players that maybe some of us would have sold. So the onus is on the coaching now. Would I have gone into this season with exactly the same squad? No. Would you? No. But the club chose to. with an amazing structure of best-in-class technicians around technical directors, directors of football, CEOs, whatever Blanc and Brailsford do. We brought in Ruud van Nistelrooy, René Hack, we've got Erik ten Hag. We have got probably more than enough football specialists there, and they chose to go into this season with this squad. I don't think we can sit here and go, we need this, we need that. We need a left back, but we needed a left back last January. We needed a left back in the summer. They didn't get one. So I don't sit here going, we need this, we need that in relation to transfers. They chose this squad. We need to see why. And I think it's too early with the new signings to say they're not working. And it's ridiculous to start talking about people like Bruno or whoever else because the club chose, well, they gave Bruno a new contract. So the onus is on the coaching now. It's got to show us what the vision was because they mapped this vision out. And again, I don't think people are talking about this enough. Erik ten Hag didn't lock himself in a bunker and select this squad and go la 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 to Dan Ashworth or anybody else. They sat there with him and went, yeah, we won't bother with the left back. Yeah, we will go for Yoro and Delit and Mazraoui. We'll go for Agate. We'll go for Xerxes. This is what we're going to do. We'll give Bruno a contract. They've sat there as a group and come up with this solution. I want to see the solution. And I might be in the minority here, but I think that squad is good enough to get in the top 4. And that, my friends, was the aim for the season. I said top 4 and a trophy, and I'll be very happy. But the league position is the one that's important to me. 7th or 6th or 5th in the Carabao Cup. Well, I've been there, done that. We did 3rd in the Carabao Cup. 8th in the FA Cup, been there, done that. This season, we got to end up in the Champions League. The only get out of jail is the Europa League, but that's risky. Although Mourinho did do it. But I agree that this squad needs improvement, specifically at left back. But there are enough pieces there to construct a good season. And the reason I think that is because that's what this best-in-class scenario structure super-duper club came up with. So I don't look at it and go, we need another £50 million striker, or we need another £50 million centre-back, or we need another £60 million midfielder. I think the components are there. Put it together. My only issue with that is it's very hard to put it together when we're starting to pick up all these injuries again. And, but I don't want to use that as an excuse. I don't. If we bring a counter-attacking coach in, guaranteed half of the squad will struggle big time, apart from 2 or 3 players, and that would be a major mistake, says Akil. I don't think there's a counter-attacking coach there that's going to come into Man United. I don't think that... I don't see that happening. Patrick says, will the United stand ever do videos or analysis of tactics or something else other than Ten Hag? Will he stay or go? We're not doing a video about that, Patrick. I'm sorry, your intelligence has failed you. We're talking about INEOS and why they've come to this conclusion. We're talking about the structure above Erik ten Hag, which has to be scrutinised, and that INEOS will be talking about. We're talking about the market that people keep saying is good, that wasn't good in May and is not good now. We're talking about the ownership of our football club. We're talking about the squad and whether it needs players adding to it, which I don't think it does. That's the conversation we're having, Patrick. Unfortunately, your brain can't compute it. You just think it's a Ten Hag in or out show, which it hasn't actually been for the last 56 minutes. If we bring I've done that from Akil. Shubham, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much. Would you take Thomas Frank, says Just Kevin? Getting some good questions now. There's no manager out there that makes me feel optimistic. There's 1 or 2 that excite me, but there's none that I would sit here and go, everything's going to be your... That's Bob Marley. There is no manager there that I go, yeah. There's only been 1 in the last 10 years where I did, and that was Jose, and it didn't work. So there is no manager out there that makes me go, I'm optimistic. Because we've been doing this for 10 years. But look, Thomas Frank definitely deserves a bigger job. I don't want to talk about Thomas Frank too much because we're playing them next Saturday, and I think they're going to give us. I think they're going to give us a tough game. I really do, and I don't think that's a shock to anybody. They've scored in the first 2 minutes of their last 4 games. They're playing really good football. They're very well organised, and is that the opposite of everything we have been this season? Rude for a few games while we get Amorim, Nagelsmann or Terzic. There's your solution. This is Ferruzi. Thank you very much. For a few games, I think you're talking about 40 games, mate. 40 games is not a few. You're not getting any of them before the end of the season. Terzic won't happen. Won't happen. That won't happen. Harry says, Wilcox, Ashworth, Barada don't want to admit they were wrong to keep Ten Hag, but INEOS are done if they don't sack Ten Hag now. He is no good as a manager of United. His results have proven it. And yet I've just read a whole paragraph and he's not told us what he's doing next. I'm sorry. I apologise for that. I really do. That's on me as an admin reading and conducting the show. Poor. I have to take responsibility for that. You know when you read something and then you don't get the answer? I hate it. Absolutely. It's like watching a film and it leaves you not knowing what really happened. I mean, you've just literally said Ten Hag out and you've not told us anything about what happens afterwards or what you would do, which I just think it's an irrelevant comment because we're not having that chat. I want to know what you were going to do. Shush says his answer was just a new manager, but who? Like, was... I don't personally. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm low IQ. But I can't do anything with that. It doesn't do anything for me when somebody says we just need to sack the manager. And what are we going to do then? What are we going to do then? Like, who is it going to be? Like, we've spoken about what happens with Rude. That's not going to work. And then you're stuck with the market again of Tuchel and and Potter. And again, I think most people think that that's a big mistake. So. What we're gonna do? Using Rude until the summer. Fine. That's fine. Just tell me it. If we bring accounts, we've done that from Akil. Terzic is a good manager and he succeeded at a huge club under massive scrutiny from fans like Man United, and he's available. Okay. What do you want me to say? I do not think he would do very well at Man United. What's your solution in keeping him? And if results don't improve, says Marvin AM. Mate, I'm not turning this into Ten Hag in or out. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about INEOS and why we believe, have reached the decision they have. You're trying to turn it into a Ten Hag out show or a Ten Hag in show. You can tell me what you think. That's absolutely fine. But what more do you want me to say? I agree with what INEOS have done. I agree that we decided to keep Ten Hag in the summer. We spent a load of money, and Barada, Ashworth, Wilcox and co are massively part of what we've done over the summer. And if we throw it all down to sack Ten Hag, people don't seem to understand that we're also throwing away Wilcox, Ashworth and Barada's plans as well. It's only the middle of October. My stance, Marvin, is that what INEOS have done, especially in relation to the manager market, would be very different if Nagelsmann was available or Zidan wanted the job, but they don't. So the manager market's no better than it was in May. We've spent a lot of money and we've put a lot of plans in place over the summer. As it appears to me that INEOS have made the conclusion that they're going to carry on for a bit, I agree with that. You're asking me to predict the future. If we lose to Brentford at home on Saturday, there's a good chance he might not be here on Monday. But he's on thin ice. I don't know why people have to say I'm sticking with Ten Hag until the end of the season no matter what. It's a results business. Some of you are Ten Hag out now but struggle to tell us what you would do next. Some of you are Ten Hag out and tell us what you would do next. Some people are not Ten Hag out at the moment and are saying, look, at this moment in time, I would stay the course. But the result on Saturday is going to dictate a massive part of that. And then even if we win that game, you go to Turkey and you play Mourinho, and that will be a big game. The pressure is on. The injuries are rising. And so is the temperature. And that ice is melting that he stood on, that is thin. Bullshit. We can't get anybody else, says Mike. Thank you very much. Benny McCarthy's podcast said the training session is at a top level, but the players just can't seem to bring it out in games. He said it's the players' mentality that needs changing. Yeah, well, that has to happen. But we're not going to change that. In fairness, J17 legend, we're not changing the mentality of that football club for Brentford. And we're not going to change it for next season. That's going to be something that absolutely needs to change, but will not change for a period of time. The new manager won't change that. The current manager won't change that overnight. It will take time, and it has to come from the top, because the Glazers have run Man United as a brand for 10 years, and we need to run the game. We need to run the club as a football club. There are people that over the last 10 years have been able to go behind the manager's back into the boardroom and have more power than the manager. And that needs to change. There needs to be a defined structure of you're a player who is paid to play football. You are not a power player who tells us what to do. And even as recently as last season, that was still happening. So we need to change that. INEOS need to change that. We've had too many people at that football club who've been brandified and allowed to do it and encouraged to do it. And that needs to stop. But that will take time. The amount of sideways passes I see from these players that they are scared to play, says Terp. And Benny McCarthy said Graham Potter is the best manager he ever worked with. And if he is, no, he didn't. What is the course? How long? It's all bollocks, really. The football I loved was when the players wearing the red shirt crossed the line and took total control. We don't have those types of players anymore, says James. Well, you know, James makes a great point, because I think everybody in life is always going to chase a solution and is always going to believe a solution is there. And it's a very positive way to be. And I agree. I think there is a solution. But there might not be a solution. There might not be a solution. There is every reason to believe there should be a solution, because Manchester United is Manchester United. And Manchester United makes a lot of money. And Manchester United is a massive name in football. So Manchester United will always be a massive name in football. But there is no guarantee that we get back and win titles again. We might get back and win one and then fall off for another 20 years. We are obsessed with getting back, and we must always be obsessed with getting back. But there is no guarantee. There is no golden ticket. There is nobody out there saying, don't worry, you will get back. We've fixed it for you. Like, it might not happen. And that is why it's so important that the implementation of the plan is stuck with. They've got to find a solution and they've got to stick with it. And we were talking about the injuries. They're not going to solve that overnight. They're just not. And we're talking about leadership. They're not going to change that overnight. And we talk about the culture. They're not going to change that overnight, but they've got to change it. And they've got to change it. INEOS have got to change that. They have to change that, because they've got the responsibility for that. They're in charge of the football side of the club. They've got to change that. If they think they're going to make Man United win a Premier League title with players that can turn it on and off like a bloody light switch, they're having a laugh. They've got to look at those players that turn it on and off like a light switch and understand whether they're the right players or not, or whether they can be made to keep the light on. And if they can't, then we'll never be successful. When you produce the highest revenue of all clubs, you should be able to get back to the top as you have the resources to do so. Yes, I literally said that, Ice Tray. But there's no guarantee you will get back, because we've spent close to $1.5 billion on players in the last 10 years and we've never been in a title race. So just because you've got the biggest revenue doesn't mean you're going to win anything. You put an idiot, you make an idiot a multimillionaire, he'll be broke in 10 years. You put the Glazers in charge of Man United, they'll destroy it in 20. End of the show. Great way to finish. Thank you. And we're also in debt. Yeah, good point. Right. Great show. Thank you, everybody. Loved the Sunday night show tonight. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. If you didn't watch it live, get your comments in. Always ready to read those. And big week for Manchester United. Very big week. And yeah, the games are going to come thick and fast. They're very winnable. But yeah, it's back. You know what? I didn't watch England play on Thursday and I didn't watch England tonight and I didn't give a shit. It was absolutely nice just to... I don't like the international break. I want Man United to play, but it was actually quite nice to go out with the family and have a Sunday dinner today and a glass of wine and go for a walk and just not watch football. But yeah, it's going to come back thick and fast now. Why United fail is because we don't change the players who fail, just the manager. This always causes problems because the same players is there for new managers, and we've been doing this for years. Ray, what a great way to finish the show. I think many people have been saying that for a long time. We didn't clear out in the summer as well. People think we had a clear out in the summer. We didn't. I know 3 players that we wanted to get rid of that we couldn't get rid of. People were talking about selling Bruno and Rashford. We couldn't get rid of Maguire, Lindelof, Eriksen or Casemiro first. The big clear out didn't happen again. Same thing's going to happen in May that we've been saying for the last 10 years. We need to have a clear out. We never have that clear out. And Ray is right. If you can't clear out the crap, how do you expect the dressing room not to smell of shit? Take care, everyone. Speak to you in a bit.